The NFL draft ended less than a month ago, yet somehow the puppy's about to fill. Underdog just dropped this tournament. 225,000 entrant tournament, and there have already been over 200,000 teams drafted. Insane. We're going to go ahead. We're going to hop in here. Y'all know Nick, member of the flock, actually won this tournament a couple years back. I think he won 75K then. However, this year's a little bit different. This is a larger tournament where you're getting $100,000 to first place. Second place is 75K. Third place is 500, etc., etc., etc. Maybe we hop into a higher stakes like $25 Best Ball Mania later in this live stream, but because the puppies are about to fill, I feel like if we want to get in a few more of these, we kind of got to do so sooner rather than later, right? I'm not going to say this is going to fill today, tomorrow, or the next day, but it looks like you don't have too much longer to be getting in these for now. Underdog does have the $3 Schnauzer tournament, which obviously is going to be a little bit smaller. And there you can only draft a maximum of 20 teams. So that one should actually be open for quite some time. But the puppy itself looks like it's going to be ending soon. And then obviously they'll have a puppy 2. I'm sure they'll have a puppy 3, etc., etc., etc. But that's probably not going to come out until later down the road. So we got to go ahead. We got to get going. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with me. Always happy to see y'all. And yes, we are in this draft with Demonic Celery, who's in at pick 1. We're at pick 11. Let me know if anybody else got into this draft with us. We got Alex in here at 12, so we need to kind of be careful of what we're going to be saying when we're on the clock at like pick 11, pick 35, pick 59, just because obviously I don't want him sniping us. So we're going to try to avoid it. We got K11 Flight in at 10, so we are sandwiched between two people in this live stream, which is going to make things very interesting. Bubba Trailer in here with us at pick 4. And yeah, sadly, we get a ton of pick 11s. Pick 11 this year is starting to feel like how pick 9 was for us last year. Jahmyr Gibbs off the board in the first round. Obviously, that's normal, but what I meant to say is off the board as the first running back, which very rarely are you going to see Gibbs ahead of Barkley or ahead of Bijan in these drafts. What I've actually seen some is I've seen some Jahmyr Gibbs falling to pick 7 and 8 as of late, which again, I'll take him at pick 6 every chance I get. But yes, we are sandwiched between two members of the live stream. So it's going to be a difficult draft. Thank God this is a $5 one, not a $25 one. AJ Brown all the way at pick 6. So it looks like Tilted Bob is going for a little bit of a unique team here. Should get himself a unique combo, of course. The question is, how much of a sacrifice from a points per game perspective are you looking at downgrading from Lamb to AJ Brown? So this is crazy. So, yeah, Gibbs in the first round. No way. I was considering him at pick 11. I wasn't going to pull the trigger for sure. But yes, Lamb at 7. Do not show this draft to Danny. That's for damn sure. Ashton Genty off the board. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to keep it stupid simple. I'm going to take Amon-Ra St. Brown. If y'all saw my wide receiver rankings, I think you can make an argument to actually have Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked ahead of somebody like Malik Neighbors, who goes at pick 8 here. And honestly, in these underdog drafts where wide receivers hard to come by, I think you could potentially make an argument to have Amon-Ra St. Brown like ahead of Ashton Genty as well, if you really wanted to. So starting St. Brown, Brian Thomas, I think it's a pretty unique combo if you're looking at the way the ADPs line up. And at the same time, I really do like this start. I think it gives us a lot of flexibility later in this draft. And we have plenty of upside as well. So we're not sacrificing upside. And we have a pretty unique combo as well. But appreciate y'all hanging out. And Cooper says, how do you get one of these? So I'm assuming you're already on Underdog Fantasy. I'm actually repping the shirt right now. But yeah, these are best ball drafts on Underdog. So what that means is you don't submit your starting lineup every single week. It's not like a regular fantasy football league. It's not going to replace your main fantasy football league. Say I take Amon-Ra St. Brown here in round 1 and I draft Quentin Johnston at the very end of this draft, or maybe I take Jalen Tolbert with my last pick. If there's a random week where Amon-Ra St. Brown gets injured on the first drive and Jalen Tolbert scores 2 touchdowns, Jalen Tolbert would actually automatically slide into my starting lineup ahead of St. Brown. So there's no time commitment at all during the season. And obviously, we're going to be drafting those players at the end of this draft that are absolutely disgusting. You may see me draft Jalen Tolbert. You may see me draft Jaleel McLaughlin. So there are no waiver wires as well. So you're able to draft hundreds of these teams every single day. And of course, not every day, but every offseason. But if you wanted to draft with us, you can find that link to Underdog Fantasy in the description, in the comment section, in the live chat. It says draft with us here. Just click that, use promo code FLOCK, and you will get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, at the same time, you'll get my 2025 fantasy football draft guide and cheat sheets for your main fantasy football league. And if you wanted to make sure that you are eligible to get on Underdog, here is the map of the states Underdog is in. It's also in Canada, outside of Ontario. But let's see. Victor says Neighbors going to break fantasy. Jay says Puka, AJ start for me. And then David says Ashton Genty seems too high. I'm fine taking Genty where he goes. If you wanted to rank CMC ahead of him in a tournament style setting, I'm fine with it. But I think that if you're looking at like a regular fantasy football league where the floor matters somewhat as well, I completely understand wanting to go Genty where you're pretty much penciled in 300 plus touches. Real says, is Underdog in Georgia? You can see the map here. Yes, sir. Underdog is Georgia. I'm no, I almost said geologist as if I was studying rocks. I'm no, God, geographist. Is that what it is? Geography-ist? Can we throw that at the end? But I believe Georgia was on that list, my friend. But yeah, the Raiders running back room is non-existent after Ashton Genty. Genty's guaranteed 300 touches this season. So the floor with Genty is incredibly high, and the ceiling is as well. So we started wide receiver with St. Brown, Brian Thomas. So we have a lot of flexibility. A lot of times I will take like Breece Hall here and pass on Josh Allen, thinking that the team here at pick 36 and 37 can only take one of the elite quarterbacks, whether that's Allen or Lamar, and we're going to get one of the other guys on the way back around to us. But we don't have a ton of Josh Allen, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to mix him in here. He takes DJ Moore as well. So in a vacuum, I definitely prefer having Xavier Worthy over James Cook on Underdog. I have yet to draft a team yet with both Josh Allen as well as James Cook. Typically, these quarterbacks that run the ball a bunch, we're not necessarily looking to pair them up with running backs because, like, when you're taking Josh Allen here, what I'm hoping Josh Allen has 15 rushing touchdowns. So if Josh Allen has 15 rushing touchdowns, it may not be the most likely outcome that James Cook smashes as well. Now, what's funny is if you look at what we had this past season for these two players. So let me pull this up real quick. Sorry. Let me move this around so it's easy for y'all to see. So look at the far right column here. Just to explain these columns for you on the site. These are carries inside the 5-yard line. So you can actually see how much quarterback's rushing at the goal line. How much is he throwing at the goal line? Josh Allen only had half a pass attempt inside the 5-yard line per game this past season, which is the lowest mark that you've seen since 2019. But he's still running when they get to the goal line, over half a carry per game rushing there. But the big difference that you have for these guys is if you go over and look at the James Cook goal line roll this past season, he went from as a rookie averaging, he had 0 attempts inside the 5-yard line his entire rookie season. Then he was getting 1 every 3 games in year 2. But then this past season, you actually have him jump up to almost a carry a game inside the 5-yard line. And that's what led his rookie season to 2 rushing touchdowns, his second year to 2 rushing touchdowns, and this past season to 16 rushing TDs. So it is very interesting to see the expanded role for James Cook running the ball at the goal line, while at the same time it is maybe taking a slight hit from Allen just because they're not throwing it as much when they get there. But obviously, just because that happened last season doesn't mean it's impossible to see any regression. But let's see. Demonic Celery says, love being in the draft live here and being the opposite side of the board. Yeah. I definitely prefer when y'all are in the drafts with us, and like Demonic Celery's in at 1, so we're not having to worry about him, right? Yeah. James Cook scored a ridiculous amount of touchdowns last year. And obviously James Cook was not viewed as the touchdown scoring option because through the first 34 games of his NFL career, the man had a total of 4 rushing touchdowns. So it is definitely a new thing here. I'm bald. I'm 23-2. Still feeling you, my friend. Says, I like that you're basically monopolizing every Bills touchdown. If the Bills are still good, you're ensuring a high floor. Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. But at the same time, when we are drafting here on Underdog, what I'm typically trying to accomplish is I'm typically trying to chase a high ceiling. Okay. Joe Mixon, Calvin Ridley go back to back here. So we have a very balanced start, right? We have our 2 elite receivers with St. Brown, Brian Thomas. We have the elite quarterback with Allen. We have a solid running back with James Cook. Let's see what K11 Fantasy does. Goes DK Metcalf. So we're just going to take a second running back here with RJ Harvey. Once we go Harvey, though, at pick 59, it does put us in a spot where more likely than not, at pick 62, we are going to want to look towards the wide receiver position. Now, if we get a crazy fall, like if Chuba Hubbard falls to us, maybe we take Hubbard, but Hubbard goes there at 61. So I think we are going to look down this list just slightly and try to pick up another receiver. I'm going to go with Godwin. I know we've talked about this a lot, but a big mistake that I made time after time in these underdog drafts is deciding to draft the injured guys in May, in June, in July, thinking that we have this crazy ceiling for weeks 15, 16, 17. Oh my gosh, if Godwin gets back to what he was previously, and maybe this is the team that can turn $5 into 200,000. And at least this past season, that couldn't have been it was the worst thing you could have ever done. Like the worst plays you could have been making in May were drafting the guys coming off an injury. Whether that was Jonathan Brooks, whether that was Nick Chubb, whether that was TJ Hawkinson. Not a single player ended up moving the needle for you in underdog drafts. Now, again, I said the same thing as this last year with a couple of those players, so don't listen to me too much on this. My thought process with Godwin is, hell, he was the wide receiver 2 in points per game before he went down with an injury. So if he was the wide receiver 2 in points per game, averaging 2.35 yards per route run, a career high, before he goes down, us getting him at like wide receiver 30-something seems like it's priced in. But again, same thing. We were getting the discounts on the injured guys last season. And even if we thought it was quote-unquote priced in, it still didn't help at all. Spencer says, what happens with the prize pool if the top 2 players have the exact team? So if you look at how many variables are in a fantasy football draft, the mathematical possibility that 2 players have the same exact team and make it to the final rounds and both win, to my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, I've been drafting on Underdog for 4 years. They've hosted hundreds of tournaments and it's never happened. The only time it ever happens is Underdog does weekly tournaments during the season where it's like, oh, you can draft a week 7 team. Draft this team just for week 7, kind of like DFS. And I think because there are fewer teams in those drafts and at the same time, there are fewer rounds, like maybe there'll be like 6 rounds, you can see some dupe teams. But here in these season-long contests, it's just frankly never going to happen. I think how they do it with the weekly drafts is they'll just like say, first place in this tournament's 100,000, second place in this tournament 75,000. So how I would imagine if somehow, some way it ended up happening, I would imagine what they would do is just take the 175K, divide it between 2 people and pay out both. Yeah, Demonic Sailor says, never seen it in any best ball, but seen it in DFS. Yeah, so it happens in DFS and like the weekly contest. It just doesn't happen in the week this season long. Because if you think about it, 12 teams, 18 rounds, there are way too many variables for 2 people to be walking away with the same teams. Recon Runner says, if I enter 20 or 50 drafts, can I win multiple times? So obviously in like the big tournament, there's only like one first place prize. But yeah, you can get like first place and 5th place and then win like 100K and then 50K, whatever it is. And then you can win multiple tournaments. Like a couple of years back, I actually won multiple tournaments. I won a $100,000 tournament. I won a $20,000 tournament. In Best Ball Mania, I got 16th place for 10K. I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking, but I'm going to take every opportunity to talk about that season whenever I get it. We'll take Cooper Kupp here. Essentially, at the 7-8 turn, we got to continue to make sure that we are at least filling up on receivers. Like, we're not falling too far behind. Now, obviously, we get a lot of flexibility because our first 2 picks with the Monroe St. Brown, Brian Thomas, we're just going to assume that we get so many usable weeks from these 2 players that it's not the most pressing need to continue to hammer wide receivers in the middle round. Like, I'm not taking Rome Odunze over RJ Harvey on a build like this. I'm not taking Darnell Mooney over DeAndre Swift. But I feel like we probably got to mix in Cooper Kupp. If y'all been in enough of these underdog drafts, you'll realize that wide receiver in rounds like 9, 10, 11, 12 are just really gross. So I don't want to have to be reaching on somebody there. Yeah, once upon a time. Freshie says, yeah, Ramadre has fumbling issues. Oh, trust me. Somebody who was dying at running back in the Flock League last year and was having to deal with Ramadre Stevenson. Oh, I know. David says, are we completely counting out Ramadre because of Henderson? So it's all about price, right? Trevion Henderson here is going at the end of the 6th round, which when Henderson was a 5th round pick, I was drafting very little of him. But honestly, if Henderson's going at the 6, 7 turn here, I will draft a lot of Trevion Henderson. Like, I don't know if we've caught up yet just because this like discounted price is relatively new, but I think taking Henderson here is completely fine. I'm looking over Ramadre Stevenson. The way that I'm viewing Ramadre Stevenson and Najee Harris, because they're kind of similar, right? You see Najee going at RB 35, pick 111. You see Ramadre going at RB 40 at pick 128. I'm viewing both Najee as well as Ramadre Stevenson as they have little to no shot to be the starting running back through the entire season. I would say that they probably have roles to start the year in a committee where maybe you get a couple random usable weeks from them in best ball. Or if you're drafting in like a regular redraft league and you go 0 RB and you want to take Najee Harris or Ramadre Stevenson at the end, and you go, you know what, maybe I can start them and get low-end RB2 production to start the season, and then hopefully I pick up a running back off the waiver wire. Or here, like in these underdog drafts, maybe you started early and you went with a couple of these running backs that may not give you production till the end of the year. Like, say you take a Trevion Henderson at 70. Maybe you want to follow that up with Najee Harris later. You can go, oh, okay, well, if Henderson's not the guy early, maybe I get Najee early. And then later in the season, they kind of transition over to just being premium handcuff backs, where it's like, oh, you take Najee Harris and an injury occurs to Amari and Hampton, Najee Harris could potentially crush. Oh, you take Ramadre Stevenson and you get an injury to Trevion Henderson. Well, if you drafted Ramadre Stevenson at RB 40, he could potentially crush that price. So how I view it is we're going to have to just take Keon Coleman. We have Josh Allen. If we take Keon here, we don't have to take any other wide receiver in this range. And we can go with our favorite running back, quarterback, tight end at pick 110. But yeah, how I'm viewing those guys is I'm viewing them as like, you get maybe a few usable weeks early, and then you get the rushing upside late. I'm sorry, the handcuff upside late. We'll take Tyrone Tracy. Tracy could just be the starting back over Scadaboo. We don't necessarily know. I've definitely taken more Tracy than I have Scadaboo so far this offseason. Doesn't feel great, but it is what it is. It's more about the price of the 2 players. Tracy going at 110, Scadaboo going at 95. Let's see. Atlanta Degen says maybe Najee. I think Ramadre definitely starts or splits 50-50 all year. Great in the pass game. If we're looking at this, like Trevion Henderson, in my mind's the receiving back between the 2. Like back in the day, Ramadre Stevenson did get a decent amount of usage as a receiver. Like you can go back to 2022 in New England here and see that he had a 17% team target share, which is great for a running back. But that falls down to 12.8% in 2023. And then in 2024, that fell down to less than 10%. And I know he only played 15 games, but on the site, we take into account that it's only really the games that he played that we're looking at that. So in my mind, I don't think you're taking Ramadre for him to be the receiving back in New England, or at least that's not, whenever I'm drafting him, that's not my expectations. My expectations are that you actually have Henderson as the guy. Casual Interest says, with how popular the streams are becoming and Super Chat's disabled, are you going to use a different system to ask generic questions or make comments? So in the live streams right now, when we're just hanging out doing underdog drafts, The issue with me having super chats on is what it's going to turn into is it's going to turn into people asking me like questions about their fantasy football team, which I just kind of want to draft this underdog draft. I don't want to go through and do like roster reviews. So during the season, I'm sure that you've seen like on flockfantasy.com, we have like, you can go into personal advice and you could submit a roster review, trade question, super message, or during the season, we have start sets as well. But I'm not really focusing in on those either right now, just because we're doing underdog draft. That's what I'm enjoying this time of the year. Once we're during the season, we'll go ahead and do that. But I don't want to have super chats on and then people donate and I feel bad if I don't answer a specific question about their specific fantasy team. So I'd rather just like, if I see a question that's like, oh, that's a good fantasy football question, answer it, but not necessarily feel obligated that we absolutely have to. So we have a lot of flexibility with what we can do here on the turn, right? Running back, we have James Cook, RJ Harvey, DeAndre Swift, Tyron Tracy. So we can take a fifth running back. Quarterback, we only have Josh Allen, so we can definitely take another QB. Wide receiver, we have St. Brown, Brian Thomas, Godwin, Kupp, Keon, so we can definitely take another receiver. If you're looking at the potential stacks that we have, one here, I'm taking Tyler Warren very easily. I absolutely love this Tyler Warren price, even if the passing volume of the offense isn't great. But if we're looking at the potential stacks we have, we really don't have a Jordan Love option. We could have gone Love at 131 and then at 134 gone like Tucker Kraft. But what I'm probably planning on here is just going Kincaid and continue to build around this Bills offense. So one thing that maybe I need to reevaluate and maybe I need to check in on my priors is, y'all know typically I've said, yes, we want our stacks. Yes, we want our double stacks. But once you get to a point of having like 4 or 5 players from the same offense on your team, maybe you do have some diminishing returns where it's like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to win a massive tournament like this, like you're going to have a $5 buy-in turn into $100,000. If you have 5 guys from a singular offense, 6 guys from a singular offense, and a third of your team is one offense, at that point, is it actually capping your ceiling? That's a thought that I've had in the past, but if you look back at the team that won millions of dollars in Best Ball Mania last year, they had Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, like Yoshi Vosh. They had like 5 Cincinnati Bengals. Exactly. So my thought process beforehand may have just been completely wrong. Maybe building out these onslaughts for specific offenses like the Bengals, maybe like the Bills, could be a good thing. Now, this is something that I should have done a while ago, but obviously I don't want to say obviously we've been busy, but just to let you know, we've been a little bit busy here, not in the normal studio. I am actually packing up today. After this live stream, I'm going to start packing my stuff. I leave this Airbnb on Friday. I'm going to a different Airbnb outside of San Diego to start prepping for the race. And, so hopefully things start slowing down and maybe I can actually get a research video done for y'all to like reevaluate the stacks with the extra data that we have from last year, reevaluate running back draft strategy, reevaluate wide receiver draft strategy. Because one thing that, in my opinion, people do a very bad job about with these underdog drafts is they look at what worked last season and then they just ignore everything else. But underdog has had a considerable amount of drafts, and we have data from the 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024 seasons now. We have 5 years of quality draft data where we can come up with some pretty solid draft strategies. So I'm going to do like a whole deep dive looking at a bunch of different draft strategies for y'all. And I think one thing we want to evaluate is the viability of going with like Josh Allen, James Cook, Keon Coleman, and Dalton Kincaid. Okay, Tank Bigsby goes 153. I don't want to say too much because this person's in the live stream, this person's in the live stream. So We're going to take Leggett. I've drafted a decent amount of Leggett here at like wide receiver 70 or so. Do I feel great about it? No. But I've done it. Reason we go Leggett is just if you're looking at the quarterbacks that are going to be left, we still need another guy. We didn't necessarily have any other stacks we could have been looking at other than maybe like Sam Darnold with Cooper Kupp later. Or maybe like Anthony Richardson with Tyler Warren. But nobody else in this range really stands out for me. Like, am I that excited to take Austin Eckler? No. So I'll just go ahead, draft Bryce Young, pair him up with Xavier Leggett here at the turn. Not have to worry about another quarterback making it back to us. But this does mean we are done drafting quarterbacks at this point. When we go Josh Allen in round 3, if we take our second quarterback in round 14, we're done. I think the only instance in which you can maybe take 3 quarterbacks on a Josh Allen build is if like you wait for round 16 and 17 where you go like, or maybe you wait till rounds like 16 and 18 where you go like Sam Darnold and Jackson Dart or 2 guys like that. But for us to go with another quarterback 158, we're done with them. But yes, keep pounding. CJ Hill says you have a fetish for Panthers players, and I don't know why. I wonder if I can go back and re-look at my exposures from last year. Because what's funny is last year it felt like I kept on talking trash about the Panthers offense, but kept on taking like running backs, receivers from it. So I don't know. Roshan goes 167. We're going to grab another running back. Our 2 tight ends going in rounds 11 and 12 at pick 131 and 134. Since we're only drafting 2 QBs, I think we could get away with taking a third tight end. We definitely wouldn't want to be doing so until later on, unless we had like a big tight end value fall to us at 179. But I think a 5th running back we need to take. A 3rd tight end is in play. And then obviously we need a couple other receivers. Eli Billy says, what's the format of Underdog? How many bench players, etc.? So let me see if I can just show it here. So this is the tournament info. Roster, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a flex, 10 bench, and 1 tight end. But like I said, this is going to be automatically submitted for you at the end of every single week, right? But that's why, since you have to start 3 wide receivers, you will see, like, if you fall behind at wide, the most dangerous thing, if you're new to Underdog, that you need to understand, the most dangerous thing that you are going to do is you're going to take running backs too early. You're going to fall behind at wide receiver, and it'll be impossible for you to catch up. So you kind of have to get ahead of the wide receiver falls if you can. And yeah, of course, we're going to be doing more drafts after this. We're going to be doing more drafts. Hopkins goes, F it. We'll just take Alec Pierce. I've not drafted much Alec Pierce. I actually have a lot more Pittman. I have a lot more Adonai Mitchell. I'm probably rooting against Alec Pierce, to be honest. I know everybody loves Pierce because he did get some spike weeks last year. If we get Hunter Henry, I'll take him. And if not, DJ Giddens was our next guy. But Alex decides to take Mason Taylor, so I will go ahead. I'll take the boring tight end with Hunter Henry. I like this team. Am I going to sit here and act like this is the best team we've ever drafted? Obviously not. But for pick 11, where it's never the most exciting, I feel like it's fine. Wide receiver, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas, Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, Keon Coleman, Xavier Leggett, Alec Pierce. A fine wide receiver room, mainly because we get lucky enough to pair up Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas. So we have 2 hammers. We have the upside with Godwin if he's good to go. That's obviously what this team needs. This team needs Godwin good to go. If Godwin's a bum this next season due to the injury, this team's screwed. Running back, we have James Cook, RJ Harvey, DeAndre Swift, Tyrone Tracy. I think it's a fine combination of projectable volume and upside. We have the elite quarterback with Josh Allen. We have a Bills onslaught with James Cook, Keon Coleman, and Dalton Kincaid. And then going over to tight end, I think we have nice projectable floor weekly and some ultimate upside with Tyler Warren, Dalton Kincaid, Hunter Henry. So I like it. Kobe Short says, how do you feel about the Gilbert Arena situation? So I was waiting for somebody to ask about this because I've seen a couple people on Twitter losing their minds. So here's backstory for everybody with this situation. I'm sure y'all have seen it as well. Gilbert Arenas, obviously former NBA player, has an Underdog show. Gilbert Arenas, well, I have no inside information. I've never met the dude. I would go to say that he doesn't know the most about fantasy football. I don't think he is as a diehard fantasy football as you are or as I am. He entered in a crap ton of underdog drafts this weekend and auto drafted them, taking a bunch of quarterbacks and tight ends early, essentially having no shot to win whatsoever. And a lot of people got very upset, going like, oh, these drafts need to be canceled. His teams have no shot to win. That means that the other teams in this draft, they got an unfair advantage. Instead of having to go up against 11 other people to advance, they only have to go up against really 10 other people to advance because one of the teams is completely dead. We're going to take J.K. Dobbins, who I've been drafting a lot at the very end of this draft. Actually, at this point, I'm really hoping Dobbins finds himself in a good spot. And we're going to take Jalen Tolbert as well, just one of these other wide receivers that randomly, hopefully, can provide us some spike weeks at wide receiver 3 and the flex. But I actually really, really like our team. But let's go ahead and let's hop in another puppy draft. I know a lot of people have been asking us to do the $5 drafts, so let's get back in. Okay. So, again, Gilbert Arenas drafted a bunch of fantasy football teams that have no shot to win. At least, that would be my non-expert advice. People got very upset, and I will say, I am very jealous that I was not in those drafts. I would have loved to have been in those drafts. I would love to go up against somebody who has no shot at winning, and instead of only having to beat, having to beat 11 other teams to get into the playoffs, I only have to beat 10. That'd be great. I would like to hopefully have more unique combos in the early rounds. But here's the thing we all need to be in agreement with, if you were doing hundreds of these underdog drafts like I am. I want as many bad drafters in here as possible. I want to be the best drafter. That would be my ideal. I would love if Underdog continues to blast underdog ads on every single NBA game, every single NFL game, and we get a bunch of people coming into these drafts that don't normally play fantasy football. That would be the dream. That would be the best thing possible for everybody. Do I want to be going up against every other team in this tournament that drafted a perfect squad, and all of a sudden I don't have a massive advantage over anybody? No, of course not. So while I'm jealous I wasn't in those drafts with somebody who probably doesn't know what he's doing, am I going to cry about it and say that we shouldn't allow people in drafts who don't know what they're doing? No. Hopefully Gilbert Arenas starts watching this live stream, so hopefully he can get a better idea of what to do. That would be the ideal. But I am on the team of, let's get more drafters in here that are new. I don't want to be going up against a bunch of red shield people who have done 10,000 underdog drafts every single time I enter in a draft. I would rather fantasy football grow, and I would like some type of advantage. I spend every single second of every single day researching and doing this stuff. I would like to go up against a couple people who never do anything. It'd be great. And yes, I don't want to see Raphael in my pod, that's for sure. But Lance got in our puppy. He's in here at pick 3. We got Matthew in here at 12. We got Chris in here at pick 8. We got Bryce in here at 2. We got SARS in here at 7. We got JRV in here at 5. So all my rant of saying I don't want to go up against good drafters, I want to go up against people who don't know what they're doing. Let's see. I'm going to get weird here. We're going to try something new. We're going to take 2 round 3 players together and hopefully have a unique combo, because I think after Achane, there's a massive teardrop. Like, I would love to have gotten Ladd, Bowers, or Etienne at pick 21, but it doesn't go that way. So let's see everybody that we don't have. I mean, JRV doesn't know what he's doing. We're going to crush him. SARS doesn't know. We're going to crush him. Bryce, we're going to crush him at 2. Chris, we're going to crush him at 8. Matthew, we're going to crush him at 12. So at least half this draft room doesn't know what they're doing. So for me, I have a guaranteed advancement. That's what I'm reading here. That's what I'm seeing. But thank you for joining. And obviously, y'all know I'm just messing with y'all. Okay. We are going to take Garrett Wilson and then Marvin Harrison. Again, we go Bijan out the gate there in round 1. I know that like Higgins obviously has a much higher ADP than like these other receivers, but my thought process is there'll be a decent amount of Bijan, Higgins, Harrison. Bijan, Taylor, Wilson. But because Wilson and Harrison are typically only around 3 picks, I don't necessarily know if there's going to be a lot of crossover between those two guys. I don't think that they're that much worse off than what you're going to see with the other players like T. Higgins as projections here. So we'll get a little bit unique with it. Maybe we sacrifice a little bit of points when it comes to our expected median projection. But if it gives us a little uniqueness while at the same time having a solid roster construction, I'm fine for it. And yes, hit that like button if you haven't already. I completely forgot to say this. I know we're live streaming very early here, but if you want to just come out here whenever we're streaming, even if it's much earlier than usual, hit the bell next to the subscribe button. If y'all want that third draft, make sure you go down there and hit that like. I'm Baldum 23 too, says Rice at pick 23. I'm not a fan. Again, the thing with like Rice, and I've said this since Best Ball Mania dropped, and I haven't drafted a lot of Rashee Rice. So we'll see what happens. But if Rice does not get suspended and Rice truly is 100% healthy, Rashee Rice should be getting drafted ahead of Tyreek, Higgins, Harrison, Wilson. Like Rashee Rice should be over here with Ladd, A.J. Brown, Drake London. If Rice is fully 100% good to go, he's a round 2 pick. Now, obviously, you have the injury concerns. You have the suspension risk. So, I haven't drafted a ton of them, but I'm fully aware that he could absolutely crush me. Like we had, and I know what we've said this a couple times now. We're going to go DJ Moore. But we had phenomenal advance rates last season. I think across the board in almost every tournament that we did, we had a great year. Now, sadly, I got a Best Ball Mania team to the finals. It didn't really do much once it got there. So it's not like we had some massive positive season money-wise, but that's the structure of these tournaments. You really got to hammer it in that final week. But we had a great, great season last year. And full transparency, I got very lucky. The reason I got very lucky is Rashee Rice looked like he was going to win leagues. Rashee Rice looked like if you did not have him, you were screwed through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. I didn't draft a lot of Rashee Rice. So with the trajectory he was on, we're going to go Joe Mixon here as our second running back. Projectable volume. I'm sure y'all maybe saw the rumors of like Dobbins going to Houston, which maybe wouldn't be ideal, but it is what it is. Like we're definitely looking at a one of the cheapest running backs in terms of projectable touches there with Mixon in round 5. But yeah, anyway, we had a great season last year, but it would not have been that way if Rashee Rice crushed. I got very lucky with the Rice injury. And I have a feeling that like based off where the Rice ADP is at this point, while I 100% understand the upside case, I may just be in the boat of saying, if Rice plays 17 weeks and he was giving you the same points per game he did last year, maybe this isn't my season. So we'll see. And I know this, I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to get mad at me for saying this. I mean, is anybody going to sit here and stand that Rashee Rice is some great human being? But I kind of hope Rice gets suspended. Whether I hope that because I don't have him in a lot of drafts, whether I hope that because I think he deserves it. Frankly, it doesn't matter. If Rice gets suspended, it will help. But if Rice plays 17 weeks and he does what he did last season, ripperoni pepperoni. RJ Harvey falls down to pick 59. So again, you are seeing the continued fall from some of these rookie running backs. Ginty falls down to pick 11. Ginty typically, right when tournaments open, was going at like 7 and 8. Now you see McCaffrey go at pick 7, which I think you're going to see more and more of. LeBron Pookie says, if Rice were to get suspended, would they have to announce it before the season starts? I don't think so. But I am not a genius with that. Beckham says, Mason, what's the best pick to pick from? I love 6, because here at like 6, you can go Gibbs Bowers. You can go Gibbs Achane. I think you're like inside the top tier of these players. And in round 2, you're not looking at the crap like Jonathan Taylor. You're not having to look at like Jonathan Taylor or T. Higgins. You can still get Achane. You can still get Bowers. You can still get Ladd. So my favorite pick is pick 6. And I actually drafted a $500 underdog team from pick 6. And I just recorded a video of how that draft went. And the editor's working on it. Hopefully it's done for y'all soon. George says, got CMC at 17 and Puka at 8 yesterday. I'm jealous, my guy. I'm very jealous of that. Let's see where JRV decides to take this. Goes Ricky Pearsall. So we are going to take another old crusty running back with Alvin Kamara at pick 69. Now, when we go 3 running backs inside the first 6 rounds, we are for sure playing catch up a wide receiver here, right? Unless we get like a big time fall like Sam Laporta to us at 76, more likely than not, I am going to be forced to take a wide receiver at 76. JT says, Jonathan Taylor is crap. You're joking. I draft a crap ton of Jonathan Taylor every year, but I don't want to say crap pick like Jonathan. You know what I mean? I think Jonathan Taylor is crap compared to CMC and Devon Achane that you can get at the beginning of the second round. I'll say that. I think there is a teardrop. Where do we want to go with this? I think we may take Ayuk. Do we want Ayuk or Golden? I want Ayuk. I don't like the prospect profile of Golden. I feel like I get stuck in taking him too many drafts. I love Quinshon Judkins in round 7. Like, full transparency, I think Judkins was the best player on the board. To grab him at 78, Vinny, obviously in these drafts with us all the time. Like, this is the dream draft from Vinny here. Vinny at running back has Gibbs, Judkins, elite quarterback with Hurts, stacked with Devonta Smith. Tight end, he has Bowers. Wide receiver, Jason Smith-Olave. So it's not like you're a complete zero there. Obviously, he's going to be playing catch-up at wide receiver through the rest of this draft, but Vinny at 6 is crushing this. JT says, you're scaring me. My JT exposure is hell. If you're taking JT over like Devon Achane, I think you may get crushed. But like Jonathan Taylor in comparison to the other guys at the end of round 2, I'm not saying JT is crap. I'm saying the 2-3 turns crap. Like JT, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, like I'm even including the guys that I took in this draft. Garrett Wilson, Harrison, Jacobs. Like, I don't like this 2-3 turn in comparison to what you have at the beginning. Like AJ Brown, Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers, Devon Achane, CMC. Just feel like so much better picks in the second round. Picking for profit says I'm at 99.7% Pollard. Am I cooked? How do you even get to 99.7%? How is that even possible? Bryce says I take too much Golden. Don't like it. Yeah, I don't like the prospect profile of Golden, but I will take him over Jaden Reed. And so I have ended up with an okay amount of Golden in round 7, even if I'm not a fan of it. Pacheco goes 87. Pickens says I'm at around 280 drafts so far. I'm an addict. Okay, my guy. Let's be clear with this. If you've drafted 280 teams within the last like 30 days, you're averaging 10 drafts a day. 1, you're well ahead of me. And 2, I would be, for me personally, I know I'm an idiot. I know I get things wrong all the time. So very rarely am I going to go out of my way and make like a super strong stance and go, everybody's wrong with this dude. I'm going to take him in 99% of my drafts. Like my most drafted player at the moment, maybe like 25%. Let me pull this up. We're going to take Aaron Jones at 93. This team, I guess, what we are saying is age doesn't matter. Maybe that's what this team needs for it to actually have a shot at anything. We have the old crusty Mixon, Kamara, and now Aaron Jones. But my most drafted player is at 23%. Most drafted player is Quentin Johnston, the big Q, to nobody's surprise, at 23%. Okay, I'm going to go with Michael Pittman Jr. I think you could obviously make an argument for us to take Caleb Williams. In general, I do prefer Caleb over Pittman. The issue with that is, again, we are just too light on wide receivers at this point where we are having to continue to play catch up here. So running back, we have Bijan, Mixon, Kamara, Aaron Jones. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, and Michael Pittman. So it is frustrating to see Brock Purdy go off the board at 103. Because, like, if you're looking at the quarterbacks that, oh my gosh, Darnold at 104. Ooh. Note to self, don't expect to get Darnold later. But if you're looking at like the wide receivers we had Garrett Wilson where we have the Justin Fields option. Marvin Harrison, I was hoping to get Kyler at pick 100, but Kyler goes at 96. DJ Moore, Caleb Williams goes at 106. Brandon Ayuk, I was hoping to get Purdy on the way back around, but Purdy goes at 103 here. So every single one of our receivers so far, their quarterback's gone. The only guy we have the option for is going to be Anthony Richardson with Michael Pittman Jr. But let's see. Tyler, congrats on your Wolves, my guy. Didn't watch the game, but I made an underdog pick'em, logged into I wanted to see what happened. I went, holy crap. Superboy says, you need to diversify your portfolio, but watch you win first every league because of Pollard and become a billionaire. Yeah, so, I mean, it is a general rule of thumb, right? So, like, you go back that year that I won a couple tournaments, got 16th place in Best Ball Mania, and had, like, a better advance rate than you could ever find from anybody else. My most drafted players were Jacobs was my most drafted RB. He was the best pick in fantasy football that year. My second most drafted running back was Kenneth Walker. He was one of the best picks in fantasy football that year. Patrick Mahomes was my most drafted quarterback. He was one of the best picks in fantasy football that year. But I had capped myself at 20% across the board where I didn't want to have exposure more than 20% to anybody. And it really, I mean, obviously I still had a phenomenal season, but it could have been a lot better. It kind of screwed me. Now on the flip side of that, you go back like 2 seasons ago, I believe. At this time in late May, my most drafted player was Trey Lance. I was looking at the historical data going, we've never seen a quarterback with this kind of team investment not have a starting job. And he has all the rushing upside in the world. So even if he's a bum, he can be effective in fantasy. But I capped myself at 20%. So it saved my season. So like mitigating your exposures across the board can help. It can hurt depending on the year that you have. But my thought process is let's live to see another day. Right? JT says, how much money did 16th pay? That year was a little bit different. I think it was a little top heavy, the payout structure. So 16th place, I believe I only won 10,000 with that team, which this year it would be 70,000. I think we're going to go Travis Etienne as our 5th RB. The thing is when we go with no, we're going to go Tyler Warren. Um, yeah, I like ETN there, but the thing is, if we were to go ETN, then we are in a spot in which we are done drafting running backs. We can't take another guy. But running back, we have Bijan, Mixon, Kamara, Aaron Jones. Wide receiver, we have Wilson, Harrison, DJ Moore, Ayuk, Pittman. We took Fields to stack up with Garrett Wilson. We have Tyler Warren here at tight end. So we are setting this team up to just be a team with all the rushing points at quarterback. We may have to get Anthony Richardson later on to pair him up with Pittman and Tyler Warren. Diego says, do you want anything for getting past the first round? Yeah, so let me show you like the puppies, very, very similar to Best Ball Mania. The only difference is $5 buy-in instead of $25 buy-in. And at the same time, a slightly fewer total entrants. But let me just like kind of roll this out. So let's look at this. If you get past the first round, I believe it is, you make your money back. Let's just look at this together. Really, what you need to contextualize is, at least understand, is the vast majority of the money is paid out in weeks 15, 16, 17. When you draft these teams, you really need to try to be optimizing for those final weeks. So if you get to the fantasy football playoff tournament, you get your money back on your entry. So if you're a top 2 team in your 12-team league, you make it to the fantasy football playoff tournament, you get your money back. This is at least in the $5 puppy. Then from there, once you're in the fantasy football playoff tournament, if you advance another round, you get $25. I believe. Something along those lines. Or if you're in like, just by advancing, you get 25. And then if you're in like the second half of advancers, you maybe get 75, whatever it is. And then once you get to the final, that's when you get the escalation to the big prizes. So it does ladder up for you to like advance, you get your money back, advance again, you get a little bit more. But the vast majority of it is going to come in those final 3 weeks, which is a big reason why you have to optimize for weeks 15, 16, 17, and try to have the highest ceiling you can possibly get at that point. Okay, so if we're looking at quarterbacks here with Stroud and McCarthy, neither guy is an option for us, really. Jaden Blue goes. Do we just take Ferg? Like, I like Benson here, but again, issue is I really want to give ourselves the ability to take a running back that we love the value of. And once we take that 5th running back, we're done drafting him here. Picking for profit says, so the main goal is first. Okay, now I'm locked in. Exactly. Main goal is first place, for sure. Safety Net likes our team. Thank you, my friend. Henry says, wow, BBM, you break even if you get past the first round. Yeah, so that's how it was. Like last year, I had great advance rates across the board. Like I said, I even got a team to the Best Ball Mania finals. Sorry, thinking 1 second. I know this is weird, but I'm going to take Michael Penix just for hopefully the points and helping us advance. We have Bijan, so maybe you get a Michael Penix Bijan spike, but in reality, probably not. But yeah, so like last year as an example, great advance rate across the board. I got a team to the BBM finals, but I also do a couple $500 drafts and $1,000 drafts, right? So if you look at my season from like a dollars in, dollars out perspective, I don't have the exact numbers, but I don't think I was profitable. I think I got close, but I still think I lost some money. But again, I would 100% sign up for that season again this year if it meant I got a team to the BBM finals and I had a real shot at winning like 2 million, right? I'm fine even with a great season, losing 1 to 2% of my entries. If it means I get a realistic shot at like life-changing money, which that's what you want to give yourself the option for in these tournaments. Is obviously there can only be so many people that actually hit the life-changing money. What's funny is somebody left a comment on a live stream like 2 days ago saying that they got like 3rd in Best Ball Mania last year and won like 300K or something. But there are only going to be so many people who can do that, right? My main thing is I have to give myself a shot to be one of those people. Which I think we did a good job of last year, and it just didn't bounce in our way. Vinny says, 500 watching, 120 likes. Got to get 250 for a third draft. Hit that like. Yes, if you have not done so already, go down there, hit that like button. Henry says, if you do 150 a year, you do the average, you'll make week 17 once every 8 years, which I've done it a couple times now. So again, it's not like complete randomness. It's definitely, there is a skill to it. But yeah, it's very, very hard to make week 17. Scott says, I got 42nd place in a puppy and I won $1,500. If that helps you. Yeah, puppies filling up fast. There will definitely be more of them, but if you want to hop in this one, kind of do it soon. Econ says, Mason, do big winners typically have good stacks and correlation? Typically, yes, but the person who left the comments on the video yesterday was like, oh, stacks are, not yesterday or 2 days ago, the stream or whatever. It was like, oh, stacks are complete BS. I got 3rd place in Best Ball Mania last year. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. How much money did you win? And then he said he won. We're going to take Algier, I guess. We have the entire Atlanta backfield and we have the Atlanta quarterback, if that matters. But he was essentially saying stacks are BS, blah, blah, blah. Y'all don't know what y'all are doing. I got 3rd place in Best Ball Mania last year. And I was like, okay, well, one, I know stacks matter. Congrats on being able to get 3rd place without it. But I didn't want to argue with him in the comment section. I was like, oh, that's awesome, man. Which genuinely, I'm like, that is awesome. I'm happy for you. How much money did you win? Because I was interested with that. Okay. Let's see. We take Tyler Algier. So we're done at running back, right? Bijan, Mixon, Kamara, Aaron Jones, Algier. The oldest running back room you're ever going to see. But we're done. Gesicki goes 169. Douglas 170. Pat Bryant goes 171. We will take Anthony Richardson at 172. We'll get him paired up with Pittman and Tyler Warren. Told y'all this was going to be the Russian quarterback room. We have Michael Penix for maybe some accuracy, but Fields, Richardson, please give me some spikes on the ground. Diego says, do you think your most successful teams come from early drafts or the ones closer to the season? I'm trying to think. I think the team I won the big dog for a couple years back, I'm just guessing at this point. I think that was like, let me tell you exactly. I know I DM'd somebody at Underdog, was like, hey, can you look at whenever I drafted this team for me so I can go and react to the live stream? So let me see when that was. Because the slow draft that I won the Bulldog 2 for $20K, I drafted that when I was on an Alaskan cruise. And I think that was like July. The big dog I drafted on 8/10. So that was August. Yeah, so I drafted the big dog like a month before the season. I drafted the Bulldog 2 months before the season. And that BBM team, I don't know when I drafted it. But when I'm going to be drafting so many teams, I can't afford to like say like, oh, I'm only going to draft 2 weeks before the season. Or, oh, I'm only going to draft at the very beginning. I'm going to draft hundreds of teams. I need to be drafting constantly. So we have 3 runs left. Can we say, God dang it, I don't know. We're probably going to make the wrong call. We're going to go with the 3rd tight ends. This team probably doesn't have enough upside to actually make noise in weeks 15, 16, 17. I think we're going to be able to advance the team, or at least have a very good shot of advancing it. But wide receiver, Wilson, Harrison, DJ Moore, Ayuk, Michael Pittman, and then 2 bums may not be good enough to actually get it done. And yes, hit that like button again if y'all want that other draft. A Banner goes 192. Marks 193. I haven't taken Woody Marks in a single draft. Let's see. I don't think maybe I took Lockett in one. Maybe I took Lockett in live stream like 2 days ago or something, but I don't really draft Lockett either. Calvin Austin. Who the hell do I take here? I'm going to take Jalen Royals. Get some young blood onto this team. I have no idea. Like, maybe we should have gone with Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell's my second most drafted player, though, and I didn't like him as a prospect. Didn't have a super compelling rookie season either. I know we have Richardson, but we also have Michael Pittman and Tyler Warren. And I know we discussed like a Best Ball Mania team. The Best Ball Mania team who won it last year had the entire Cincinnati Bengals onslaught. But I do think building an onslaught around Burrow is probably very different than building one out around Anthony Richardson. Pokemon Deck Review says, how much Jake Bobo have you drafted? Approximately 94%, my friend. Let's see. Diego says, I see lots of people with overlays for their drafts. You ever think about getting one? Not particularly, because in my opinion, I think a lot of the things the overlays are showing at the moment are more distractions than really help you build solid teams. I'm monitoring everything, and if there is something really cool, then maybe I change my mind. But I haven't seen something that I felt really moves the needle. Like, for us to be trying to guess what's a good defensive matchup and what's a bad defensive matchup for week 16, week 17, when we're sitting here May 25th, I think that's a much tougher guess than roles, efficiency, and the range of outcomes with these players through the entire season. Okay. Devin Neal goes 209. Mike Williams 210. Jawan 211. I think we're going to take Amari. I've drafted too much of Amari, but it is what it is. Let's go over, and I'm hopping in another draft. I don't want to start packing. I would just genuinely rather draft another team than freaking have to start packing up this Airbnb. So we're going to hop in a BBM, ladies and gentlemen. But let's see, where are we picking from? God dang it. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten in. And how is Vinny always in these drafts with us? Vinny is in every single one of these. This time in here at pick 5. Raphael is in this draft with us at pick 9. But let me know if anybody else is in here. Pick 12's awkward. We'll see if anything happens. Maybe we end up having to reach to try to come up with a unique combo depending on what everybody else does in this draft. Like, I don't necessarily know if we just want to be going like Nico Collins or Brian Thomas here on the turn. Okay. Yes, good old pick 12. For whatever reason, Underdog has decided that this year they want to give me as much pick 12 and pick 11 as we can handle. I'm a strong soldier. I can handle a lot. but it is getting a little bit frustrating. I mean, I would like some more Justin Jefferson teams. I would like more pick 6 options. Diego says, get Nico and then reach for the big Q. I would, my friend, but we got to lower our exposures a bit. We're at 23% big Q. I will say, I can see his ADP rising, and it does scare me a bit because there may be a point in which we have to stop drafting the big Q. We'll see. Henry says, wow, lots of non-badges. I did a BBM yesterday and was the only non-badge in the room. Yeah, here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you want to hop in some drafts with us on the live stream, maybe that's how you get no badges. Monroe St. Brown goes at 10. So this is the issue, right? You go ahead and you look at the options here on the turn. Like Nico Collins, Brian Thomas may give you the best start, but the amount of teams that are also going to have Nico Collins, Brian Thomas will be very high. So what I actually may rather do is try to come up with a little bit more of a unique build by going like Brian Thomas, Drake London. Now, full transparency, this is a much worse start. And this is why typically I don't like doing this on the live stream, because a lot of people are going to come in here and go, oh my God, Mason, you have Nico Collins ranked over both Brian Thomas and Drake London in your rankings. Why are you doing this? So this is a massive, massive tournament, right? We go ahead and we look at this. 670,000 entrants, $15 million for first. The amount of teams that are just going to take Nico Collins and Brian Thomas on the same squad will be very high, just because of the way that ADP lines up. Typically, they're the best wide receivers on the board at picks 12 and 13. But if we are trying to maybe have a little leverage over the rest of the fields, where Brian Thomas usually goes at pick like 13, 14, and Drake London typically goes at picks like 16, 17, there will not be too many Brian Thomas, Drake London combinations in this tournament. So I'm fine reaching a couple picks on like Drake London, taking him over Nico Collins, even if I think Nico Collins is maybe better in a vacuum. Because the thing is, when we're playing fantasy football and we're trying to project these guys out, like I can sit here and I can rank Nico Collins over Drake London, but if you told me, Mason, what is the possibility, or you asked me, Mason, what's the possibility Nico Collins outscores Drake London in weeks 15, 16, 17 this next season? Well, I would say Nico Collins has a better shot to score 100 plus points in those 3 weeks than London. I think there's a 60% chance that Nico Collins outscores London through those 3 weeks. A 65% chance at the most. However, if that 40% outcome hits, and Brian Thomas is like, for whatever reason, the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy, Nico Collins gets injured, or Nico Collins just has a disappointing season in comparison to Drake London, London turns out to be the wide receiver 3 in fantasy, there will not be too many teams in this tournament that have Brian Thomas and Drake London. So if I'm on the clock in the flock league, there's no way in hell I'm taking London over Nico Collins ever. But here, I am going to mix it up just a bit. And looking at any other randomness that we see through the rest of this draft, it doesn't necessarily seem like there's anything crazy. Maybe A.J. Brown falling to 19's not super common. I don't like the Lamar Jackson pick at pick 30 if you get A.J. Brown at 19. And the simple reason is if you get A.J. Brown at 19, you have a very real shot to get Jalen Hurts at 54. So, like, I'm completely fine if you wanted to mix it up and you wanted to go with some Lamar Jackson in the middle of round 3. However, I don't know if that's the team that you want to be doing so with. Like, I don't know if, like, an A.J. Brown pick 19 teams where you want to take Lamar. Charles says Vinny has a stud start. Vinny going with Lamb, Higgins, and Chase Brown out the game. Well, I don't want to crap on Vinny. Obviously, I got to give Vinny all his flowers. But Vinny's a freaking lucky guy. I'll tell you that much, all right? Every freaking draft I'm in here with Vinny. I'm over here at pick 11. I'm over here at pick 12, grinding it out in the depths of hell. Well, if Vinny's on a beautiful cruise, sailing the Mediterranean, just stopping by, eating a amazing chicken taco, drinking a pina colada, when he gets to be picking at picks 3, 4, 5, 6 constantly. I don't know what Vinny did to get this luxury. Maybe he was a great guy in a previous life. Maybe I was a hellion. But Vinny, good start. But I will also point out, come on, the dude's always picking at 5. He's always picking at 6. But Sabre says pick 7 would be my favorite drafter if he went Puka over Genty. Gets Ladd at 18, Rice at 31, and then Daniels at 42. Travis says reason for Brian Thomas over Nico is I think Brian Thomas and Nico, like you look at the way that ADP lines up, there'll be more Nico London teams than there will be Brian Thomas London teams. Specifically, when we're taking Brian Thomas London here, it's because I think that it's a very unique combo. Vinny says it's going to be all sweeter when you win the $2 million from pick 12. It will be, my friend. Charles says you don't have an emoji allowable for what he did to get his pick spots. Mason says, would your favorite spot still be in the same in a regular draft? Most likely, yeah. Because regular draft difference, right? And of course, like I said, I'm going to make that fantasy football draft guide cheat sheets for every league format imaginable this year. You draft on ESPN, you start 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. You draft on Yahoo, you start 3 wide receivers, 1 flex. You draft on Sleeper, and you're playing an 8-team league. I will hopefully have a draft guide cheat sheet for you where I adjust the positional values for all the rankings, and you can print it out, take it to your draft, use it on the computer, whatever the hell you want to do. But like whenever I'm making those sheets, the difference between those and underdog drafts, other than when we're looking at the later rounds, and the later rounds, obviously quarterback 2s and tight end 2s are going to be important, where in your regular league, obviously they're not. But the main thing in the early rounds difference between underdog and your regular draft is I will have the wide receivers ranked a lot lower. Like, for instance, there's no world in which in a regular fantasy football draft I'm ever taking London over Devon Achane or Bowers. Like, we'll look at some of those adjustments that we'll be making. And I'll just try to think, like, in a regular fantasy football draft, what may be the most advantageous pick. Okay. Massive Audio says, hey, Mason, what's the video of the big dog dropping? I was in that slow draft, so I have extra interest. I did a couple big dog slow drafts. If you're in the one in which I drafted Gibbs, A.J. Brown out the gate, hopefully it drops tomorrow or the next day. I recorded it yesterday. It's the weekend, so I mean, it's Memorial Day weekend, so I don't know when the editor's working on it. I think we go Godwin here and maybe Henderson. No. I want at least one receiver. I'm going to go Henderson. Good running back prospect, good NFL draft capital. Projects to be a good team and a good offense with a good quarterback. So we'll go Trevion at 61. Still says, thoughts on your favorite spot? Okay, so let's go back to this. So underdog draft, best spot to pick is 4, 5, 6. Tier 6 guys, and you actually can get an exciting player back like A.J. Brown on the way back around. So I love pick 6 this year. But if we're looking at this from like a redraft perspective, not underdog, let's look at these early rounds and let's see how things will change. Redraft, not underdog. I'll probably have it ranked Chase, Barkley, Bijan, Jefferson, maybe Lamb Gibbs or Gibbs Lamb. But regardless, that'll still be the tier top 6. Then afterwards, it will probably be Genty, Puka, McCaffrey, just like this. Then like St. Brown, Neighbors, Nico, Brian Thomas. Or probably ahead of Brian Thomas, I'll have Achane. Well, like Achane probably at 12. Brian Thomas at like 13. Then essentially just imagine London sliding down. London would slide behind Achane, Bowers, Henry. Into like this Ladd, AJ Brown range. McBride, Taylor, Bucky, Jacobs, Chase Brown will probably slide up here, at least all ahead of Higgins. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ahead of Higgins. So that kind of wraps out. And like Higgins will start off the beginning of round 3. Kyron I'll push to the 2-3 turn as well. The elite quarterbacks like Lamar Allen will be early thirds for me. And then I think in the third round, you're getting to like Higgins, Harrison, Wilson, Terry, Tyreek, and like the mid third on. So with that in mind, if I could start like in my ESPN league where I start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, which I actually don't play in a league like that, but I'm saying I think a lot of people that watch the videos during the season do. If I could start off like Bijan, Jacobs, and Ladd, or Bijan, Bucky, Ladd, or maybe Gibbs. I think maybe like having a top 3 pick would be the best in a regular redraft league. Because again, a regular redraft league, the big difference in my mind is wide receiver through the middle round is exactly what you want to be doing. We're here, underdog. Obviously, that just gets a little bit tougher. Okay. Pacheco goes 78. This point, we have Allen, Brees, Henderson, Brian Thomas, London, and Chris Godwin. Pollard goes 80. 81 Reed. I don't want to say too much, so we're on the clock. I don't know who's in the stream and who's not. Hawkinson goes 82. Hell yes. Perfect. Perfect, 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 perfect. This team's actually good. We get Diggs and Shakir. We get Diggs paired up with Henderson. We can target Drake May later on and go, what if the New England Patriots offense and Drake May take a massive step forward? We get Shakir paired up with Josh Allen. We are great at quarterback with the best QB in fantasy with Josh Allen. Solid at receiver with Brian Thomas, Drake London, Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakir. And solid at running back with Brees and Henderson. Love this team. Love this. Drew says, if Rodgers goes to New Orleans, how much does that move, AK? Rodgers goes to New Orleans, I move Alvin Kamara. Here he went at pick 69. He'd easily go ahead of Montgomery, Connor, Henderson, Walker, Hubbard. I think Kamara would jump up to being an early 5th rounder, at least on underdog drafts. Higher in your regular redraft league. This is an exciting team. I was very worried about it at first. But well, let me see. Do we have updated betting odds? Like, if anybody lives in a state where betting's legal, can you look up, like, does your sportsbook have lines out where Rodgers will play this next season? Because that would be very interesting to know. This article was written on April 29th. And as of April 29th, I don't know where the hell they're pulling this data from. The Steelers were plus 120. The Saints were at plus 1,200. That's before Carr retired. This Yahoo article was May 15th. And yeah, they don't have anything. I would love to know if anybody can find information on betting lines for Will Rogers playing. The NFL guy said he's not going to the Saints per round, the NFL. I think the assumption is Rogers goes to Pittsburgh at the moment. And I believe Pittsburgh plays the Jets week 1, unless I'm mistaken. Tracy goes 104. Luther Burden falling a bunch. I've noticed that as of late. Let me see. How many drafts have I taken Luther Burden in? Caleb goes, would have been interesting to take Luther Burden 108, Caleb 109. Track, drafts, exposure. I have Burden in 6% of drafts, which is even more than I thought. If we're looking at, I like a Loveland here, but I can just get Loveland cheaper in other drafts. Do we just go like Scatterbo, Jalen Warren? Double tap running back, build out the RB depth with us only having Brees and Henderson. Here, I think a tight end like Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram. I'd more like to take them in this range if we have Lamar. If we have Bo Nix, I don't necessarily feel the need to reach on them without them. So let's just make the boring selections. We'll go Jalen Warren. We'll go Cam Scatterbo. And I know we were talking about, like, I haven't drafted a bunch of Cam Scatterbo lately, and I've taken more Tyrone Tracy, but it's more of a price thing. But example, draft that I did right before this, I took Tyrone Tracy, like, at the beginning of the 10th round, because Cam Scatterbo went in round, like, 8. Or the point is, Scatterbo went like 10 picks before Tracy in the last draft, so I took Tracy. And this draft, Tracy goes before Scatterbo, so I take Scatterbo. I think I've ended up with more Tracy because typically he's the one going later. But in reality, I just kind of take whoever's cheaper. Tech says, we on the clock in a big dog draft. Let me check this out, my friend. Girlfriend and I went to the Comedy Store last night, which was really funny. Okay. I will admit to y'all, last night I got pissed. Okay. Let me tell y'all about this. Anyway, this is setting up. Last night I went to bed late and I was in some slow drafts and I think I accidentally auto-picked overnight, which absolutely sucked. But I think this was one of the drafts I auto-picked in last night, but we're going to go Drake London in a second. But anyway, last night, let me tell you all this. So we went to the Comedy Store, which is like the big comedy club in Los Angeles. In Austin, we have the Comedy Mothership, about the same thing. But we get tickets. We're like halfway in line. They take us to the very back of the club in like this big room and sit us right next to the bathrooms in the corner where you can't see the stage. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. And then I asked the guy, I was like, because we got there somewhat early. I mean, there were like 100 people behind us waiting in line. And I was like, oh, are there any other tables we could sit at? Like, I can't see. We're right next to the bathrooms. Can't even hear. All I can hear is girls talking in the bathroom. And then they were like, oh, no, it's first come, first serve, and it's a sold out show. And I was like, well, if it's first come, first serve, and we got here early, and there are hundreds of people behind us that you're going to walk up to the seats on the floor, why are we sitting here next to the bathrooms? Why can't I not? Why do I have legitimately a seat that is so bad it should not exist? I honestly got very pissed. I was very upset. But like 15 minutes later, the guy came and grabbed us and then took us, and somebody didn't show up to like sit right in front of the comedians, like on the stage. So we got to sit there. So it ended up being really cool, but I thought my night was going to be ruined. I was very upset. But that NFL guy says, thoughts on Mike Williams? He averaged almost 15 points per game with Herbert last time. Absolutely love the Flock Fantasy website. Use it on the daily. Thank you, my guy. I really do appreciate you. And with that, couple different things. Obviously, Mike Williams last year with the Jets does absolutely nothing. But definitely a very different situation for Mike Williams in Los Angeles. Ooh, crap. I'm not taking Marvin Mims. Do not make me take Marvin Mims. We're going to take Drake May and Kincaid. Yeah, we'll go Drake May to pair him up with Henderson and Stephon Diggs. And we will go Kincaid here at 133 to pair him up with Josh Allen and Shakir. So now wide receiver, we have Brian Thomas, London, Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakir. Running back, we got Brees, Henderson, Scottaboo, Jalen Warren. We have quarterback Josh Allen stacked up with Dalton Kincaid. And we have Drake May stacked up with Stephon Diggs and Trevion Henderson. Okay. So I hear people saying that they're static. How is there static? No. Don't do this to me, microphone. I'll unplug some of this stuff. Okay, is that better? Is that better? Let me know if the static's still there. But, yeah, anyway, last time we saw Mike Williams for the Chargers, it was a very different scenario. You had no Lad McConkey. Yeah, I mean, also, you go back, and if we pull this up on the website, I know you're saying that he averaged 15 points per game with Herbert, which was true the last time he played, but he played 3 games. So it's not fair to look at this 3-game sample and go, this is who Mike Williams is. In reality, the last full season that we had with Mike Williams and Justin Herbert was 2022. And again, this is before Lad McConkey. This is even before the big Q. This is before Trey Harris. And we still have static. How do we still have static? Okay. I don't know what we can do about that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. Hopefully the static's not too bad. But if we're looking at Mike Williams the last time he actually played, this was the season, which I'm not saying was a bad year by any stretch of the imagination. Like you look, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 usable weeks for Mike Williams in a season where he was injured 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. But again, very different context, very different situation. You look at what Mike Williams did in 2024. The man had 0.88 yards per route run. This is like worst level in the NFL. Like Mike Williams was one of the worst receivers in the NFL last season. You can say he was coming off of a significant injury, yada, yada, yada. But Mike Williams also turns 31 this year. He drafted in 2017, but he was pretty old coming out of Clemson. So I haven't drafted Mike Williams once. I've taken a lot of the big Q because I don't expect Mike Williams to really be anything, but I could be wrong for sure. Okay. We're done taking quarterbacks. I guess we take Brenton Strange and Leggett. I've drafted a lot of Leggett, who's also a bum. Let's get it straight. But what else am I supposed to do here? We need a receiver. Am I going to take Wan'Dale Robinson instead? Am I going to take 35-year-old Adam Thielen? So we'll take Leggett, keep pounding, and hopefully Leggett's able to do something for us. And yes, I wish we could have gotten another big Q share, but sadly when I'm drafting with y'all, the big Q does not make it to us. Cam says, I'm in the draft at the 1 spot. What do you think of the squad? Let's check this out for Cam. Cam at 1 goes Chase, Bucky, Wilson. Love this. Like I have Bucky ranked over Taylor. I would rather have Bucky over Harrison, Taylor, Higgins, maybe even McBride. I think you got a great value on Bucky here. Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf at 48, RG Harvey at 49. I'm not a big Harvey at 49 guy. Like I think based off the way that these drafts are trending, I wouldn't be surprised if Harvey's ADP settles around like the 5-6 turn. So I'd almost rather go Mixon there. I like Judkins at 72. Caleb Johnson at 73. I'm not a big fan of either. Pittman, Keon, Kyle Williams. I like the team overall. My issue is if I had to pick one, I think you really forced this Caleb Johnson selection at 73. I think you would have almost been better just going with one of these wide receivers here, like Jacoby Myers. Like, I would probably rather have Jacoby Myers and Ramondre Stevenson versus Caleb Williams and Kyle Williams. Sorry, Caleb Johnson and Kyle Williams. But I like the majority of it. Raphael says, peep the squad, Mason. Let's check this out. CMC, Bowers, Adams, Tetz, Hubbard, Judy, Reed, Igbuka, and unstacked Fields. What I would have been interested for you to try to do here, I don't think it would have worked out, but what I probably would have done instead of taking Fields is gone like Luther Burden to see if you could get Caleb on the way back around. Bateman at 112, Kraft, Love, Young, Roshan. I like the majority of the team. If I was going to change anything, it'd probably be that field selection 105. I may rather go like Luther Burden here, and then at 112, instead of having to take Bateman, go with like one of the running backs. Okay, so it's good for us to see these quarterbacks go, right? Obviously, we are not taking another QB. We are just a running back, wide receiver, tight end through the rest of this draft. I will take a third tight end. Our tight ends, we grabbed the pick 133, 156. I think we can get a third guy. Team before us says Baker and Stroud. So it's not like either wide receiver here pops off. Michael Wilson was the guy I wanted. Are you freaking kidding me? Okay. We may reach on... I don't want another... Actually, I'm not taking another rookie here. At least not rookie running back. Maybe we go rookie tight end with Mason Taylor to call it a day there. God, I wanted Michael Wilson. Running back, maybe Justice Hill. I think I prefer DJ Giddens in a vacuum, but when we're looking at the running back room that we have at the moment, with Henderson and Scadaboo, I think we kind of need to just go through and get some usable weeks to start the season. So we'll take Hill at 181, who just does play a completely different position than Derrick Henry. Let's see. Charles says Caleb Johnson's going to ball out. My thing with Caleb Johnson at the moment is I'm expecting the Steelers to have a very bad offense. Now, maybe that changes if they get a quarterback. But if I'm expecting the Steelers to have a very bad offense and Jaylen Warren to probably be the receiver there, I don't know if we want like a first and second down back in a bad offense. Cam says, my buddy's team's pick 8. Who's better? All right, let's see pick 8. Puka, Henry. Not a big Henry guy, but this is pretty decent value on him. JSN, not a big JSN guy, but great value. James Cook, great value. Like the value on Ridley here. A value on Burrow, you get him unstacked. I think you probably have to take Gesicki and Yoshivash later on if you do this. I like the Pollard pick, like the Cup pick. Like we go Cam Moore to stack up with Ridley and Pollard. Darnold to stack up with Jason. I like Team 8 as well. Team 8 probably should have thought of grabbing like Gesicki, Yoshivash. Just have some correlation with Burrow. But I like it. Seatown fan says, not a JSN guy. Why not? I think it's probably going to be a bad offense this next season. And I just don't know if Jackson Smith and Jigba has the same level upside as what we're going to see with the other wide receivers that typically go at the 2-3 turn. Like if you look at his season from a total points perspective last year, it looks great because he plays all 17 games, like grabs 100 receptions, finishes the wide receiver 9. But if you actually average this out to just the games that he played in, per games for all wide receivers in the NFL, he's the wide receiver 20. And the yards per route run, 1.83, one of the least efficient wide receiver seasons that you have from any guy that's going within the first 3 rounds at this point. So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, don't draft Jackson Smith and Jigba. But typically, I'm not super excited to draft him at the 2-3 turn. But getting them there in the the middle to the end of the third round, I really do like. Okay. Seatown fan says, but he's the clear number one in Seattle. Chris Olave is the clear number one in New Orleans. Are you very, very excited about Chris Olave? Are you very, very excited about Jerry Jeudy? Are you very, very excited about DK Metcalf? Like, there are a lot of clear number one wide receivers in the NFL. But just because you're a clear number one wide receiver, it doesn't mean you have to go at the 2-3 turn. Chig goes 202. Dimey Brown goes, we may take Darius Slayton. And do we take a sixth running back or no? No. Henderson, buddy, you got to come through strong for us. We're going 2 wide receivers. And we're going to go Tolbert as our last guy, right? Let me just make sure. We have May and Allen. Are there any super interesting Bills or Pats options here? Probably not. We'll go Tolbert. I draft a lot around 18 Tolbert just because I think he's a lock for the third wide receiver role in a pretty good offense. But I like the team. I definitely think we got lucky with some of the values that landed on it, specifically at the 7-8 turn with Diggs and Shakir. Quarterback, we have Josh Allen, Drake May. Running back, Breece Hall, Trevion Henderson, Cam Scatterbo, Jalen Warren, and Justice Hill. Wide receiver, Brian Thomas, Drake London, Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakir, Xavier Legette, Darius Slayton, Jalen Tolbert, and then tight end, Dalton Kincaid, Britton Strange, and Mason Taylor. Our stacks are May with Diggs and Henderson, and Allen with Shakir and Kincaid. But I think that's all we got for you in this live stream. Again, I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Let me see do we have any Underdog Pick'em promos at this point? Ooh, this may be interesting. I don't know if y'all have this. Y'all want to cook up a Pick'em for tonight's game? Check your app. See if you have the gimme pick. Because if you have the gimme pick, it will change any pick to 0. So we can do like Jalen Brunson with the gimme pick. And then Halliburton. Not a super prolific scorer. Go fewer than 2.5 threes made. And if we make this the Jalen Brunson pick a gimme pick, that will be a 4.0x for the Halliburton. Let me see if we can do this real quick. The gimme pick, I think I kind of have to do on. Okay, yeah, I have to do that on the phone. Gimme pick. Let's go Brunson. And then I'm going to go Halliburton for fewer than 2.5 3 points. No, I don't want to do that. We're going to go Halliburton for fewer than 20.5 points. I will share this with y'all. Check to see if you have the gimme pick. Because that's one thing that I haven't been doing lately because I don't watch a ton of the NBA Finals. But if you have these like gimme pick promos for Underdog, you kind of need to take advantage of them in my mind. If you don't have the gimme pick, feel free to ignore this. But like here is, that was from the comedy show. Let me see if I can share this over. Why is this not coming through? Okay. Perfect. I got it. So here's what I'm rolling with. I don't know anything about the NBA, but I know if I'm going to get this gimme pick from Underdog where they can move Brunson down to 0 points. So all I need is Halliburton to score fewer than 20.5. It's a $30 entry to win $105. that's what I'm rolling with. Check to see if you have the gimme pick on Underdog, if you want to roll with us. And then we can obviously recap this in tomorrow's stream. But I will leave the link to Underdog in the description comment section. The same place where I did this pick'em is where we are drafting, of course, every night. You can find a link to Underdog Fantasy in the description, comment section, live chat where it says draft with us here. If you use code FLOCK, you will get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, at the same time, you'll be getting my 2025 fantasy football rankings and draft guide cheat sheet. And you'll actually get an additional free pick if you're new to Underdog with code FLOCK as well. So you can maybe pair those together even. But really appreciate y'all. Really hope I was able to help you out in some way here. And again, I will be live streaming tomorrow, probably around 8 p.m. Eastern, and I hope I get to see you there.